So it's a very exciting time to be in the credit card world with new credit cards, update to fan favorites, as well as new credit card strategies and setups to consider. But there's a somewhat concerning trend going on with credit cards where it's getting harder and harder to get value out of your favorite credit card and points ecosystems. Of course, it's no surprise that prices are going up and point values are going down, as this has always been the case. But it feels like this is happening at a much more rapid pace these days, especially when we look at what's happened just in the past year. And so in this video, I want to go over how you can adapt quickly in this ever-changing credit card world so you can develop the strategy, framework, and mindset so you can pivot quickly when these changes happen. So I think it's important to identify what our goal is with these credit cards. And while that specific answer is going to vary from person to person, when it's boiled down to its core, the goal will always be the same. And that goal is to ultimately save money, whether it be in the form of cashback or some sort of other travel experience. Now, on the other hand, it's also important to ask another very important question, which is, why do banks issue credit cards? Of course, there's a long history about the origins of credit cards, and that's all great. But in today's world, the answer is very simple. Credit cards are here for the banks to make money off of you. And so then the next question is going to be, how exactly do they do this? And this is going to be a very important question to ask since our goal and the bank's goal don't really align. Well, when it comes down to us as consumers, there are three ways that banks use to make money off of us. The first method is the one that us in the credit card community know about all too well, and that's annual fees. A lot of us pay these annual fees on our favorite cards, typically luxury travel credit cards, for the privilege of not only holding the card, but also to enjoy the benefits that the card has. And, in my opinion, this has gotten a little out of hand, but more on that later. The second method is through interchange fees, where every time we, as the consumer, swipe a credit card, a small percentage of those fees go back to the issuing bank and payment network. We won't be focusing on this method in this video, but I do want to mention that there's a psychology behind credit cards where it's possible, and most likely even probable, that some individuals tend to spend more using credit cards as compared to cash. So if that's true, then banks have every incentive to give you a credit card since the odds are on their side that you'll be spending more money more often. And the third method is through all other fees, including interest fees, balance transfer fees, late fees, foreign transaction fees, and cash advance fees, just to name a few. And as credit card enthusiasts, none of these fees should be relevant to us, but it's worth mentioning as it's another big revenue stream for banks that issue these credit cards. So taking these three methods into account, the one that is the most problematic for us is that pesky annual fee, and the one issuer that's the worst offender is, you guessed it, American Express. And since the annual fee is the main fee that gets in our way, what are some strategies we can take to avoid them, or at the very least, make sure that they make sense for our own situation? Well, the easiest thing to do is to just avoid annual fee cards and just use no annual fee credit cards instead. This way, we'll still end up getting the rewards we want from spending, and there's no fee to worry about as long as you practice those good financial habits. But as credit card enthusiasts and maximizers, we do want to do better. And simply put, annual fee cards just have much better benefits that may make sense depending on our own individual lifestyle and spending habits. It's safe to say that the higher the annual fee on the card, the more time it's going to take to manage that annual fee because almost every card out there will have statement credits or benefits that will require you to work to get it back. And it's not great, but with credit cards in today's world, this is where we're at. So then for you, this becomes a question of the value of money versus time. And with that in mind, I'm going to start with an example we can all relate to, which are credit card points and miles redemptions. To some, the focus is purely monetary. For example, how expensive of an airline ticket can I book with my miles, or how expensive of a hotel can I book with my points? And where can I travel to get the absolute highest cent per point value for my booking? And if that's you, I mean, hats off to you because you're absolutely crushing it in terms of value. But I'll bet you're putting in some work to get that phenomenal redemption. On the other hand, some of you also value time, and even though these individuals may not get the absolute best redemption, they get one that is good enough because the redemption was just easy to do. And just like point redemptions, the money versus time mindset has now made its way to annual fees. And so understanding how you value your money and how you value your time also has to go into that decision to keep or cancel that annual fee card. Now, whether you value time, money, or a mix of both, the annual fee you pay on a card, at least up front, is going to be the same. And that brings me to my first recommendation, which is to know your own annual fee limit. This is the limit that you set for yourself so that the total annual fees across all your cards doesn't get too high. A lot of times, the focus is on an individual credit card and its annual fee. But I would argue that as someone who carries multiple credit cards, it's just as important, if not more important, to also look at the total annual fees across all the cards that you have. Just like with streaming services, if you have a little annual fee over here and a little annual fee over there, before you know it, you have an overwhelming amount of credit card annual fees to deal with. So let's take my own credit card portfolio as an example. Most of my annual fee cards are on the higher side, with the exception of 2 mid-tier hotel credit cards, which are the American Express Marriott Bonvoy Business Card and the Chase IHG Business Premier Card. And when we add up all my annual fee cards, we end up with a grand total of $3,664 in annual fees. Now, I don't know about you, but when I say that out loud, Stan, you pay $3,664 in annual fees every year. That sounds like a lot, and that's because it is. And looking back at the cards I already have, and based on my own current spending and lifestyle habits, I think having annual fees totaling $2,500 or even around $2,000 is where I'd really like my own personal limit to be. And now that I know that my total annual fees are too high for my liking, I can look back at my own portfolio and start to figure out where I can make some cuts. Now, for me, going for the big fish is how I'm going to do this, and I plan on cutting my American Express Business Platinum, American Express Platinum, and product changing my Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite credit cards to cut down on those annual fees. By making these 3 moves alone, this is going to drop my annual fees by almost $2,000, which would drop my total annual fees under my goal limit, which is great. In a time where annual fees are only going up, it's now more important than ever to keep an eye on your annual fees and not fall prey to annual fee inflation. Another aspect of this is discussing the effective annual fee, as this is one way to justify holding a card, as the statement credits can help offset the fee or even bring you net positive value in some cases. While I think that calculating your own effective annual fee, which is essentially the annual fee minus the sum of the statement credits and perceived value of the other benefits on the card, can be helpful, there's more than just math that goes into this decision. And that brings me to my second recommendation, which is to understand why statement credits exist and whether they truly bring you value or not. So let's be real here. Credit card issuers like American Express do not need to put statement credits on their credit cards. It would be much easier to just charge a lower annual fee without any statement credits and be done with it. But of course, these card issuers make money from transaction fees, so what better way to encourage spending and market the whole "give you value" slogan than by offering statement credits on their cards. But these are not just easy statement credits. Oh, no. Even though there are some annual statement credits, there are also semi-annual, quarterly, and even monthly statement credits, and the more statement credits, the better for them. I mean, let's just take the newly refreshed American Express Gold Card as an example. We all know that the card's annual fee was raised from $250 to $325, but it also added 2 new statement credits, 1 semi-annual $50 Resi credit, and 1 monthly $7 Dunkin' credit. And that was on top of the 2 monthly statement credits that were already on the card, which was the $10 Uber credit and the $10 dining credit. Now, if you happen to already go to Dunkin' Donuts, use Uber, eat at Resi restaurants, and dine at the restaurants that are included in the dining credit in your everyday life, and you truly get the $424 in value from these statement credits, well, then you certainly are coming out ahead. But like I said before, getting value is more than just the math itself. Every single month, while you still have this card, you have to make sure you spend at least $10 on an Uber or Uber Eats, $7 at Dunkin', and $10 on wine.com, as well as $50 every 6 months at a Resi restaurant. And why wine.com, do you ask? Well, because you'd be so miserable keeping track of all those statement credits that you're going to need some wine for sure. Now, yes, there are ways to earn these credits easily, so that makes this process a little less painful. But eventually, you'll start asking yourself this question every month. Do I care, and is it worth it? Is it worth paying an annual fee to a credit card company for the privilege of doing extra work every month to pay off multiple credits to earn that money back? I mean, I think it's ridiculous to pay someone to make your life harder, right? I don't know, maybe it's just me. Again, everyone's situation is going to be different, but I just mentioned this so you can take a step back, look at your own situation, and really think about what's going on. I made a video about a year ago covering statement credit burnout, which is a real thing that happens when you have too many credit cards with too many statement credits. And with the Amex Gold card, I was just talking about one card. What if you had 5 or even 6 cards with multiple statement credits? Well, it gets real ridiculous real fast. Can you imagine, and I've been in a similar situation before, if you had the Amex Platinum, Amex Gold, Amex Delta Reserve, Amex Delta Aspire, and the Amex Bonvoy Brilliant cards, and maybe some Amex Business cards too? How many statement credits are you willing to put up with? Now, like I mentioned earlier, these statement credits are all put on these cards by design. Credit card companies, like American Express, want you to either ignore them completely or get so fed up with them that you just give up, but you still keep the card anyways. And that's dangerous because if you don't set a limit on your total annual fees, these fees can quickly spiral out of control. So how can you make sure that you don't fall into this trap with too many annual fee cards with too many statement credits? Well, this brings me to my third recommendation, which is to build simple credit card setups. And that's going to mean different things to different people, but by simple, I really mean like 2 to 3 cards that you use for your everyday purchases. Of course, you could simply build a no annual fee credit card setup with as many cards as you want, but I'm talking about those of us who want to also integrate annual fee cards into our portfolio. Now, within this simple setup, these cards could have high annual fees, and they could also have a lot of statement credits, but if you keep that setup simple, then it'll be much easier to manage. Let's take my all-time favorite card, which is the US Bank Altitude Reserve. It has a $400 annual fee, so it's not cheap by any means, but it also comes with a single annual statement credit. But this credit covers travel and dining purchases up to $325, and that's it. It's so easy to use this credit compared to other ones. No select merchants, no monthly or quarterly credits, just a simple credit that's straightforward and easy to use. And this is the kind of card I want to keep long term, and this card is what I'll continue to recommend to those of you who are like myself and favor simplicity over complexity. And by using your favorite duo or trifecta setup, this accomplishes 2 things. 1, if these are cards with annual fees, it will clearly limit the total annual fees that you have. And 2, by design, this will also limit the amount of statement credits that you're exposed to. Of course, even though my own credit card setup is usually made up of 3 cards or less, it would be wrong of me to say that those are the only cards that I have. In fact, my entire credit card portfolio has 18 credit cards, so by no means is my credit card life simple. But I think organization matters, and I've been able to divide all those credit cards along with my Planner 2 into a core credit card setup, a secondary setup, and a 5% cash back setup, making it very easy for me to see which cards could potentially be on the chopping block because they no longer bring me the value that they once did. But be careful, you don't want to go too simple though, because that's exactly what the banks want you to do as well. From their perspective, they'd be very happy for you to just get one credit card with an annual fee and just spend all your money on that one card for everything. But we know better than that, because having a simple duo or trifecta setup is, in my opinion, the happy medium when it comes to simplicity with credit cards without being overly complicated. With these smaller setups, you can continue to maximize your spending categories by choosing the right card and the right ecosystem for your own situation, but not overburden yourself with too many annual fees and statement credits. And so these are the 3 recommendations that I have for you to help you navigate through these credit card changes. If the past year has shown us anything, it's that annual fees continue to go up, and we have to continue to understand ourselves, our priorities, and our own spending habits to make sure that we continue to get the best value that we can from our credit cards. But like I said, the more annual fee cards you have, the more likely you'll also have statement credits to deal with. And to see how that can lead to statement credit burnout, check out this video next.